Hello, everybody, and welcome to the D.M.C Podcast with your hosts, Cody Hunter, myself, and the legendary Adam Rigby. And here we are at episode number 9. We're so close to that 10th episode, our first major benchmark. We're getting there, brother. What are your thoughts, my man?
Yes, mate, we are deep, stacking and building a library for our listeners and viewers, which is amazing. A little bit of a hiccup last week. Obviously, we lost the pictures. So since then, we've obviously had our haircut, and it didn't. But a lesson there, if it doesn't go quite to plan, that plan B, we switched into action, mate. You were awesome, out of town, and we got it done. We still showed up for the peeps, and again today, lots of stuff happening this week. Is this our first morning podcast officially?
It is, mate. It is, mate.
We are recording.
Yeah, we are. I mean, yes, you know, the normal recording time, I wasn't quite feeling 100, and I didn't feel like I could give it my all to the crew. So now it's morning, which is great because I'm full of 15 liters of coffee, some pre-workout, some meds, and we're ready to rumble. Who knows what's going to happen this morning, bro? Who knows what's going to happen?
Look out.
No, it's all good. I was actually going to, I had a good lesson about this morning, actually, and this is something I just wanted to share real quick. Because I had my alarm set for the morning. Obviously, I wasn't feeling 100. I went to bed very early last night, probably about 9 o'clock. I would have been asleep. When I woke up this morning, my alarm went off, and I checked my phone real quick. And in my head, I'd already thought, look, I'm going to can the gym this morning. I'm just going to stay home. I'm going to sleep some more. And then I woke up, and this is when I thought checking the phone was actually very powerful. So I pick up my phone. There's messages from people who were up later than me last night, right? So are we catching up tomorrow? Hey, bro, what time are we shooting the podcast? Hey, boom, boom, boom. And so instead of me, it was awesome because what it did is it made me, I read them and I was like, boom, I'm out of bed. Didn't even have a second thought because there was so much I needed to get done to win the morning and win my day. So I jumped out of bed at 5 o'clock, at the gym by 6, nice low intensity, sustainable workout for about 40 minutes. And then back home, gearing up to do what we got to do. So, often we say, don't check your phone first thing in the morning. If I didn't check that, I would have gone straight back to sleep and probably wouldn't woke up to about an hour before, about 7 o'clock in the morning, probably. So I found that very powerful.
Yeah, good on you. And same for me, just so much going on, a frantic week. So the fact that we had to delay it a bit, like you say, sometimes it's a brave decision to just recognize that you're not going to be at your best and to step back and just reshoot, get that plan B. But yeah, when the alarm goes off, I'm the type of guy, and a lot of people may relate to this, that needs the second alarm. It's not just the snooze button as the backup, it's that second alarm. So Apple phone deems that the sleep function gives you 9 minutes. What I make sure, which gives me actually peace of mind and helps me in my sleep patterns, I find that if I've got a second alarm, there's always that thing in the back of the mind, what if my alarm doesn't go off? I know I've got a backup. So it just helps me relax a little bit at night. At weird times, 5:12, 4:59, 6:05, 7:07. But yeah, I pounced out of bed this morning on a mission, embracing the office time that I have available, and getting shit done, smashing an omelette this morning. Going a couple of coffees deep, doing a little bit of administration work-wise, which was good, and a little bit of life administration, emptying bins, doing a couple of chores, dishes, all of those types of things. So family gets up, they've got a nice clean home to embrace, and we can get this podcast done. I did gaze out of the kitchen and see that massive hole in the ground, so construction's still happening at our place. But again, big picture, gazing off into the future when it'll all be completed. Hopefully it's next week, because there's a couple of items arriving that will require that component of construction to be completed. So very excited for that, mate. But hot on the heels of episode number 8. And we talked about a lot of stuff, and I love the fact that we're zigging and zagging and recircling and reinforcing some of the ideas and ideals, and we're getting some great feedback about that. Still people reaching out to us, capturing those little moments of magic, for them, which is what this is all about. And also what I've been doing is actually challenging people to listen and go a little deeper, take the time. There are no excuses. We've received a little bit of kudos for the fact that we are fronting every week, because people find it hard to listen to a podcast once a week, let alone produce a podcast once a week. So good on you, Mr. Hunter, and good on me, Mr. Rigby, for fronting and getting this done. As I said, as we always wanted to build that library, and soon there will be some guests, some other people to discuss
Mate,
this funny thing called life with.
Yeah, I was just going to say, I love the fact, like we just talked about before we started recording, the whole people feel like, so for me, it feels like the last podcast was about a year ago, like the last recording, right? It seems like so long ago. I'm like, shit, episode 8. Which is so funny. And yet we've got people that are watching saying, like, how many of these are you producing in a week? And that's the sort of desired outcome, right? We are hitting once a week, of course, but we've got those daily DMCs. There's lots of points of contact that you can find us or see what we're sharing. And then for us, it keeps us hungry because boom, we're back to another podcast and we're fired up to do it. You know, if this had been, 3 podcasts a week, it might be a different story. Although I'm pretty sure we could handle it. But yeah, how interesting is that? People are like, oh, how many of these are you doing? Well, it's just once a week, guys, once a week.
Yes, and kudos for the DMC dailies. So there's a couple of people that have been loving just tuning in and getting a little bit of a booster.
We're getting close to that Hundy, mate. Getting close to the Hundy episodes.
Yeah, mate. It's almost like that daily alarm, eh? It's like daily alarm. Our subscriptions are up, which is great. Our views are up, which is amazing.
Yeah, we're over 1,000 total views on our YouTube now, which is again one thing we talked about last week, eh?
Yeah, thank you so much. I mean, probably 994 of them are me and Cody just checking back in and no,
quite
jokes.
possible. Yeah, that's right. Quite possible. I'm just checking it now.
But we have some staunch supporters of the channel, and we just want to say, guys, man, you're awesome, and we appreciate the feedback. So come hard at us. You're getting to know the trajectory. So, we just have a little bit of a tap, a little bit of a suggestion, a little bit of a knock on the door before we start to wrap our knuckles pretty hard and have the deep chats. Again, if there's stuff you guys want to talk about, let us know. Yep, we're about getting better. We're about, making life a far more pleasant and enjoyable experience for us and all those around us. Starts with us.
I really like the daily DMC as for a personal reason. That whole having to look for something in your day to share, like whether it's a lesson or it's something that happened, or it just, like we say, the doors are open now. We're waiting for the opportunity to find something to share about. And sure, maybe there's not something every day, but that momentum and that obviously commitment to showing up and doing that daily is forcing us to be more aware of what's going on. And on a personal front, I'm loving it. It's sort of changing. It changes your mindset, and it's that whole, like we say, momentum and that whole keeping it flowing. But you look at your day in a different way. And so I advise, if there's a way to mimic this for yourselves in your own lives, would be, again, journaling, of course, that daily journaling or that daily mind dump at the end of the day, or even audio on your phone. If you're a talker like I am, the audio feature on your cell phone, taking audio notes, is awesome. I've got someone here from 3 years ago when I was running in this mountain. I'm like, coming up with like all these ideas that I had to share, and you can hear me breathing. It's so good. I should try to find and share it. But they'll just stack up there and they'll be there forever. And it's a good way just to share what's going on, a little daily journal. It could be video as well, whatever you like. But I find it, it's amazing what it can do and how that momentum carries on.
Yeah, it's those auto flashes of inspiration, that you were reminding us can be lost in an instant. So how many times do we have that big idea that we think, man, that's amazing, I want to share that, or a little bit of motivation that we think, yeah, that'll be great on the podcast, or that'll be great to share with my members or participants, and then you get back in it because our brains are pulsing, firing at a rapid rate. We're always learning. There's already so many things, so much stimulus around from all angles, and it's work and it's phone and it's home and it's all of these things that are overrunning us as human beings today. But here we are.
That's right.
But here we are. Noi siamo qui. We are here. We are here for you. Committed 100%. So let's march on as we do. Cody and I have got our boots on, strapped up, laced up, black tees, Here did designer
Shit, yeah,
stubble,
bro.
and we're ready to rock. We're ready to rock. So mate, we went into lessons learned and how to accelerate your path to enlightenment by just listening and talking to the more mature parents, grandparents, mentors, all of those types of things that can give us a leg up. Being brave enough just to ask for help at times. And again, if you want to get better, what better way than to learn from the absolute best, or learn from someone who has gone through the lesson, apply some of it, make it your own, and that'll help you advance very, very quickly. It's like reading a book. Going through the experience yourself will make a massive difference. But very, very relevant, the last weekend that we commemorate, not really celebrate, but Anzac Day. Big day for Australia and New Zealand, and every year the gravity of that day and the events that unfolded, and you're right, mate, scratching the nose.
just dealing with background noise. It's all good, sorted.
Oh, nice. All of the events and the sacrifices that were made and continued to be made. You know, we're looking at Gallipoli, World War One. The youth, the young, the old, were not so much pulled into the armed forces. Not saying there was an expectation that you should join up, but you know, from the age of 18, but 15, 16, 17-year-olds were going in to sign up, and they were asked, how old are you? The answer would be, I'm 16. They said, turn around and come back when you're 18, which meant basically walk out the door, come back and tell us that you're 18. So these were kids going off to fight for Queen and country, for our independence, for our freedom, for our way of life. And a lot of those boys, those fathers, those sons, uncles of that generation never came home. A lot of them never even took one foot off the boat. And, you know, could you imagine being in that situation? Could you imagine going over with a group of your best mates, you know, the guys that you train with, and then you're the only one that managed to return, and you go back to your town where it used to be overrun with young men at the bar, and suddenly, you know, there's a few old guys telling stories of the last war, and there's you and a few mates, shadows of your former selves, just trying to pick up the pieces. Scary, but you know, the thing is, they get through such an epic experience like Gallipoli, which would have been harrowing, and every day they were fighting for their lives. When they got back to the country, they were brushed up, repolished, reuniformed, kitted up, and sent over to fight in Europe. No rest, no fuss, no hush, repacked, pushed off to Europe. And again, you know, 60 odd thousand more New Zealanders and Australians lost their lives in Europe fighting for Queen and country. So that's why on that weekend, I make it my mission to celebrate freedom, and I action pack it. I do as much as I can. And I'm mindful of those that have gone before us and given us the opportunity to do it. So I'm not going to waste it. There's no way I'm going to waste it. And we live in different times. You know, if we had the option to go overseas and join up, would we? You know, 90% of people would say, nah, I've got other stuff to do, eh? You just wouldn't do it.
No.
But back then, the expectation, so massive gravity and massive learnings about the way that we need to avoid war at all costs. We need to communicate better. We need to be more accepting. We need to forget about greed. We need to share more. We need to care more. And we need to avoid anything like that happening. Mindful that there is stuff, there are atrocities, there are still wars, there are still people fighting, pointing guns at each other.
Yeah.
There are still kids running around streets holding automatic weapons. There are still kids walking into situations strapped with explosives. It just, blows my mind. So, be mindful of that, peeps. Learn from that lesson that there are others that sacrifice their lives. There are kids that walked into battle, sacrificing everything so that we could live this life today. So that is what gratitude for me is all about. And the fact that we get a day for remembrance, it's critical that we take the time. If you can get down to a dawn parade, do it. Do it. Pay your respects. And if you see a guy walking past, especially an old guy in a uniform with medals, shake him by the hand and say thank you for your service. Different times.
Mate, just on that one, so interesting, because I've done a lot of reading in the past, and also just that whole idea of initiation into manhood, on obviously our side of things, where in those days it was kind of forced upon you. That was you're a boy walking into that registry office, and then you're off. Now you're expected to be a man. And there's different cultures and different ways that you're welcomed into adulthood or manhood, whatever it may be, where you go through that whole experience. There's it could be ceremonial, it could be staying in the jungle, getting whipped for 15 days, whatever. There's so many different ways it was done. But today for us, it's really interesting because there isn't really initiation into manhood. There's not really a time where you switch and you change. There's no, and you do have 50-year-old schoolboys running around, thinking with boy behaviors. The Boy Crisis is a book that I recommend that everyone should have a read of. It's a really interesting book, but it talks a lot about that whole, what boy behavior is versus man behavior. And that's what we're talking about when you're like a man child, man children running around, because there was no initiation. There was no way to step that thing up. For me, maybe on a personal sense, I suppose having a child is definitely a part of it. But there probably should be something before that flips us over to understand the expectations of us now, like that kind of clear cut. Look, you're a man now. You've got to protect, provide, supply. You've got to do all of these things. And I just find it a really interesting way to look at things. And war obviously was a forced one, and not necessarily mean everyone came back as men, but definitely came back different. That's for sure.
Yeah, and that man-child thing is really interesting. Man, we can go out and have fun. It's never too late to have a happy childhood. You can go out and embrace all of the beautiful things, the colors, the games. You can play. The switch really is the accountability. Because when you're a kid, it's about testing the limits. It's about doing stuff that at times is wrong, and seeing what you can get away with. When you're an adult, come on, team. It's all about accountability. The buck stops with us. We are responsible. So go out, have fun, embrace those childlike philosophies and ways. Be playful, be energetic, be happy, be kind, and don't let life drag you down. But also take accountability for it. Take ownership. Take ownership of it, and that's a biggie. And also on the back of that, war taught us one, very important lesson. When all the men left, suddenly it was the responsibility of all the women to take on these previously non-traditional tasks, right? Because it was very much black and white. You did this, you were at home, these were your jobs. But we touched on it in one of the previous podcasts, the sacrifices that it takes a village. But the reality for war is, yes, there were women out there that were having to pick up and keep the country running. There were women who had to hold families together. There were women that had to build, to construct. There were women that had to fight. World War I, World War II, notorious. The amount of brave, strong women that fought and continued to fight. And it broke down those boundaries Yeah, so kudos to the women that were involved over that period as well for keeping the country together. Challenging, difficult, horrific times. And we look back at, if you haven't seen your family history, look back. You may have skipped generations in terms of where your parents' age. My father talks about his life in the UK, where the sirens would go off and they'd have to run for cover. He talks about walking through the park, seeing the unexploded bombs. So those types of things, he was too young to go to war, and if he did, certainly, shit, who knows, I might not be here. I'd be in a different form. My energy would have been brought into the world in a different way. So yeah, it's a biggie. So to the men and women who have served and continue to serve, to the men and women who have built this country, thank you. That's all I'm trying to say. Thank you, because this freedom, this life we have, man, we take it for granted. People are throwing it away willy-nilly, and that's what pisses me off. The opportunity that's been gifted to us, it's like handing you the ball. We don't want to drop it, peeps. So the people that are listening, we are accountable. We are the ones that have been given this gift. It is up to us to carry it from here on the shoulders of heroes.
Boom.
So we become the heroes now. Certainly we may not be. Well, hopefully we won't come to us holding guns. But why were we involved at little old New Zealand, the other side of the world?
Yeah.
It's important. We need big brothers, right? We need someone to look after us. New Zealand, although it's far away, resource rich. We have food aplenty, livestock aplenty. We have workforce aplenty. We have mining, all of those resources. So, don't think because we were far away that we weren't an attractive option. That's why we have turrets that are built and litter the beaches of NZ, because it wasn't that far away from us, peeps. Do your research. The war wasn't that far away from us. So that's why our brave soldiers had to go and fight.
That's right. Well, being over in South Korea for a very long time, there's obviously the military presence is very huge. There are memorials for New Zealand soldiers that fought in the Korean War. There's connection everywhere to all sorts of countries. And it's just really interesting to see when you go over there. And there's obviously the walls of names of fallen soldiers is massive. And there are lists and lists and lists of names. But then finding those New Zealand names is really, it's really impactful, where you see, and there's not, relation to our population, relative to our population, there's a good chunk of people that were over there. And it's just really, it's crazy to see that. And their War Memorial Museum over in Seoul, which we visited a lot, it's impressive. It's wow. Their military men are still required to serve compulsory military service for 2 years. From the age of 20, but they can do it at any kind of age. But it's really interesting. It's sort of their rite of passage. They have to do it. For some of us over here, where I was at as a teenager, you know what? I think a year or two in the military straight out of high school would have done wonders for someone like me or like many of our youth that doesn't know really what we want to do at the moment. We don't even really know how to make a bed. You've been mothered your whole lives and coddled, and you're like, what do I don't even know. I don't even know how to cook spag bowl yet. Can't cook spag bowl. It's like, that's the meal, isn't it? But yeah, just an interesting idea. And I do feel like that practice or that initiation could be quite powerful. And I look at my son sometimes and I think, well, we'll see where we're at. But mate, you've got a Korean passport, so you better be careful. Or you'll be back over to Korea, mate, in the Korean military service for 2 years. It's just a joke, but you have to decide one by the time he's 20.
Yeah, exactly. Imagine being in the world when you think about, becoming the transition between boy to man, that you're going to be conscripted into the armed forces, and the expectation is a year stay for 2 or 3 years. Happens all over the world. Europe, Asia, it's an important part of it. And maybe that's the passage that others go through that we don't. So becoming a man, becoming a woman, is that little line in the sand is way different now, as opposed to what it used to be. And we need to make the most of it. We need to identify it, recognize it, and again, be accountable not only to ourselves but to those that have fallen for us. There's a go to Te Papa. There's the Gallipoli display in there, which is incredible. Peter Jackson did an amazing job also with the little museum up at the old museum. If you haven't had a chance to go have a look, plenty of stuff on tally if you can't get yourself through a book or read about it, but do some research, also some family history. And I know people who actually, you know, wear that proudly on their bodies, the ancestors that have fought. And it's grounding, mate. They are part of the earth. And you know, let's not forget how we turn them the enemy at the time, the lives that were lost. Unfortunately, as war has progressed, the biggest casualty is civilians, or are civilians. Mindless bombings of cities. So the gravity of it, moving from casualties on the battlefield to millions of civilian casualties, and you can move through the history of war, and it's ugly, but it's still continuing. It is still continuing, unfortunately. And we should know better. And you know, the thing you know that has gravity is when you're a soldier, you're given dog tags, right? You're given identification. Now that's not to identify you when you're alive, right? That's the whole point. That's not the legacy. The dog tags around your neck are not to identify you. No one's going to grab them and pull them up your neck when you're alive. It's when a body gets pulled back and lifeless, the dog tags are pulled for identification, because a lot of times the bodies aren't actually in a condition where they can be identified. So fuck, let that land a little bit, right? That's the reality of the situation. When you go into the armed forces, you're given that ID, those dog tags. They call them dog tags. That's what they're for. So again, massive gratitude. Learn as much as we can from these experiences, but also how lucky are we, how fortunate are we that we get to live this life in this country. Again, if you're walking in the footsteps of others, just be aware of how those footsteps were made and who they belong to.
Roger that, big dog. Roger that. Hey, mate,
Roger.
so we're just coming off the end of a new book too, aren't we, bro? So we talk a lot. We've talked about this before, I think, but we've both finished The Lost Connections by Johann Hari, right? Johann.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yep.
Mate, so yeah, I mean, you finished it, what, yesterday, right? Yesterday?
I did finish. And it's a long read. It is a very, very long book. And as we talked about previously, mate, it is different to anything we have exposed ourselves to, right? And so that, I think that was the challenge for us as you're waiting for I need the got yous, I need the moments of motivation. Yeah. It was pretty dark, but also necessary. I think the path that he chose to explain about anxiety and depression, and it backs up some of those things, the theories that we talk about in terms of an environment, but enlightening, horrifying, right? Yeah. Horrifying, but enlightening. And that's the important thing for us, was challenge ourselves in different ways, read things that we wouldn't necessarily read, but also this was recommended to me by 2 or 3 other people. And as a result, it actually sparked a conversation with a friend of mine at the gym. He said, mate, let's just, here's this book. And he said, I'd love to talk to you about your mindset and values. Catch up for coffee. Awesome chat. He's actually given me another book, which I'll get into next, which is another different one. And yeah, so I guess the whole premise, the thing that was reinforced to me, and again, we talk about it all the time, is we get put into boxes in society because people need to understand us. They need to grade us, right? They need to put us in so they can say, yep, you belong there, you there, yep, we understand you now. And we know that society is different, it's diverse, it's blended, the cultures are blended now. We're aware of more things than we've ever been aware of before, what's happening all over the globe. We should be smarter. I say we should be smarter, but unfortunately what it's doing is it's dumbing us down. So unfortunately, I think in an effort to create those boxes and push people into boxes, we get made to feel a lot of the times that the issues we're facing are ours and ours alone, that it's us. Hey, and what Lost Connections reinforced to me is that you are not broken, right? You are not broken. You are not busted. Society is pushing you in a direction that is uncomfortable, and we're made to think that it's us, that it's on us, and the experience becomes internal rather than us looking externally at why these things are happening. Anxiety, depression, and let's not take this lightly, team, because I've experienced it firsthand. I know people that are very close to me have been through this on a number of occasions, and I've talked about it in great length. It is a part of my life. I've talked to people, professionals, about it. What's the first thing that we go into a medical surgery, go into a doctor's, and we say, I am feeling anxious and down. What are they going to do? What are they going to do?
Prescribe you with meds.
Prescribe you with meds. And what are they saying? Oh yeah, no, it's your brain. Your brain's broken. Here, have these. Those will make you feel better. Bullshit. It's a big call, right? It's a massive call. Now, I'm not taking away from the fact that medicines or medication have helped people for a number of reasons, for a variety of reasons, and we can talk deeper about. Let's peeps read the book, okay? Before I expand and go through the 9.5 hours that we really have to do this justice. We take on massive responsibilities ourselves in our own lives. When we're told we're broken, we believe it. They give us a drug that'll hopefully fix it. They tell us it's a reason, it's our dopamine, or and they're trying to replace it. But again, we're smarter. Science is starting to back up, support it. People are talking about it. It's more about the environment that we're in. And when someone tells you, yep, you've got something wrong with your brain, what do we think? There's something wrong with me. And does that help in those instances? Or is that actually making stuff worse? Because we go internal, right? It becomes this internal battle, and it stays internal. And I know 100% the drugs that they give you will change you, will actually grab and it'll hide more of you, not promote the energy and the being that you are. Okay, so it's just a mask for a whole lot of things. It's
another little band-aid. But mate,
it is
a funny observation on that, and you'll understand this as well, is when someone comes to me, and it could be a family, it could be anybody that's talked about, and they're like, look, I've tried, like, I need something that's going to fix me for being unfit, unhealthy, or overweight. Let's just say being overweight. If you go to a doctor or anybody, and you explain and you talk about it, you don't go straight to medication. How many people go to the hospital and get given medication to lose weight? they'll be asked about your basic lifestyle goals or your basic lifestyle behaviors. What's your nutrition like? How's your sleep? How's your stress management? How's your sunlight? How's your digestive system feeling? All these different areas. And then, so you might have someone that as a 40-plus-year-old man, someone might come and say, hey, I want to get on some goodness to get some jacked up muscles because I'm working out heaps and nothing's working. I can't lose weight. I can't put on muscle mass. I can't do whatever. Sure, there may be some deeper things, but number one, how much alcohol are you drinking on a daily basis? So you sort of start working on behaviors. Whereas when it's this thing, when we start going to this side, it's well, again, I'm not speaking like I've got a lot of experience on that, to be honest, but it seems like there's a lot more of the pushing the med sides of things, like trying to fix it with something else versus talking about those other things that this book really does open up about.
It's scary, the power of the pharmaceutical companies, but also their ability to push drugs on the market without actually substantial proof that these work, masking the side effects. And they do have significant side effects. And you know what, having been through the situation, hand on heart, and reality is, someone talked to me before and they say, look, oh, thank you for actually being brave enough to share part of your life with the people, and that's what this is all about. This is not really, well, it's almost a therapy in some ways, bro, when you get to talk about stuff. But this is why this is important. I want you to know that we have been through these experiences before. I've seen firsthand what those drugs can do. I've nearly lost a person very dear to me because of what those drugs do. And the one critical thing that changed it all was a conversation with the right people who pulled it apart, and an active decision from this person who is one of the bravest, most beautiful human beings I know on this planet, said, fuck it, that is enough. Something needs to change. And they identified that they would rather battle through the roller coaster of emotions, not having drugs, than just become this brick, this slab of non-emotive concrete and deal with so many side effects. Some of the medication that they take for anxiety and depression causes suicidal thoughts. How's that for a side effect of something that's supposed to cure anxiety and depression? Causes suicidal thoughts. What the fuck? How can that be good? And what do? Prescribe it. Oh no, I think we need to up the dose a little. Oh, okay. So because of this, I can't sleep. Or have some of this. And this is a real life example, peeps. I can't sleep. Have some of this. Oh, it won't help you sleep, but it'll make you drowsy. So what do you get? A zombie who can't sleep.
Oh.
Suddenly with suicidal thoughts. Blows my mind. Absolutely blows my mind. And until you can sit down in a room of people that want to listen to you, okay, let's not talk about, hey, you are broken, let's try and fix you with this, let's put a band-aid over it, let's open it up. Let's sit down and open it up and go to the root cause. Let's talk about a whole range of stuff. What is important to you? What's happening in your life?
Yeah.
It's scary. It's the scariest thing to go through, but it's happening each and every day. The root cause of it. Now, why do you think we talk about anxiety? We talk about depression. We talk about a lot of those so-called negative things that are happening to us as people. Why do you think it's happening in such alarming numbers, especially to the younger generation? And we talk about it all the time, bro, about the environment that we're growing up in.
Yep.
The enforcement of all of these rules. We are made to feel this way. To feel secondhand. We are conditioned to want more. We've talked about it before, but this is, again, we're going a little deeper here, peeps. it's enforced on the advertising. One thing that I really loved about the book, and it talks about Instagram and it talks about the advertising. We see a production plant that's pumping pollution into the water, okay, and they can face charges. But reality is, or pumping pollutants into the air. Reality is, this is a form of pollution for the brain. All this advertising, it's just poison, and we can't get away from it. The irony of us opening up on a digital platform is, there's pros and cons to it, but it's very hard to get away from advertising. Everything, the billboards, like you said, the Nike shoes. Why Nike? Because it was pushed into your psyche that Nikes were the one to have, and it made you feel a little better. It made you feel part of the cool kids, right? The thought that, yes, I'll be accepted if I have that shoes. That's a lot of pressure to carry, bro. Hey, that's a huge amount of pressure. It's not you. The fact that you are feeling down, potentially anxious, sad at times. Let's not go down too far down the depression or at a depressive state where you are feeling sad and dark, lonely at times. Doesn't mean you're broken. It means you are human. And that's one thing that I really want to reinforce. And for us here, Cody and I, we need you to know, we want you to know that you guys are not alone. That you don't have to feel as though you need to carry that burden by yourself, because it's a team. Life is a team sport. And if you are feeling this way, the best thing you can do is go out and be brave enough. And we know you're brave enough is to talk to someone who you know will listen. Someone who you know will care. And at times that means professional intervention. But you've got to, it's something that I am super passionate about it, given the experience. But that we're just getting bombarded with all of the wrong messages, this pollution that's coming in to the mind, and it just internally destroying us.
Well, remember the term FOMO, eh? Like remember that was a big one for a while. Fear of missing out on experiences, parties, things, and shoes, and owning things. Where think about when that word stops, when it's no longer in your vocabulary. That's when you've realized you're not missing out on anything. It's sort of where you do move into being an adult, where you realize, like, where your priorities change. When someone has a party and they cancel the party, you're like, oh, thank goodness, as opposed to shit, because you're quite happy just to stay home and you have no fear of missing out on anything. You go to that part, you change over. But I just can't even. It's hard to speak from experience because we didn't grow up with the social media side of things, the bombardment of advertisements. When your mind is open to these things, like now, if an ad comes up on YouTube, you just click off it. You're not sitting there taking it all in like they would today. The body dysmorphia issues, the people that need to look like everyone else on their photos that have a gazillion filters put on it, or some kind of photoshopping to enhance the curves and whatnot. It must just be mind-boggling how that works as a teenager. I mean, we didn't have that, thank goodness, for many good reasons. There's no documentation of the silly things we used to do, but look at the role models, right? Look at on Instagram when we're talking about YouTube, when we're talking about Instagram, the shots that we know aren't real. There's an element of reality. What I'll do is I'll find an amazing. There's a beautiful young woman that's got a page that shows Instagram versus reality, and I'll try and find it because my family here follow this lady, and she's amazing. She just shows you the difference between this is real life, this is what Instagram does. So don't be fooled. But we take it on board, and it's crazy. The aspiration of I need not I want to be like that, but I need to be like that. The guys not taking their shirts off at the beach because they don't have a six-pack. Women not feeling confident enough to go into the water and enjoy playing around because they don't feel as though they're a woman. Hey, guess what? If you've got the bits, you qualify. You're a woman. You are beautiful.
embrace everything that you have been gifted, because we certainly do, and we appreciate you. But it's amazing, that false sense of self. And I got to tell you, a lot of the stuff that you see on Instagram, a lot of these positive messages, people put them there 100% for themselves. The focus isn't for how many people can I help. A lot of the times it's a cry for validation. It's a cry for them for help. The motivation that they're pushing is actually motivation, something they need to hear. The picture that they're portraying is something that they need feedback on. And let's go an 80-20 rule, because I don't want people coming at us going, but let's create a debate about it. Have a think about the content and the value of it externally, not internally. You may not think that you are pushing the content out for yourself, for your own ego, but check it. Check it. Have a look back. Think about what you're going through in that period. Is it about your relationship? Is it about your body? Is it about the food you're eating? Is that a problem in your life that you're throwing out there because you just want to? It's self-serving. Instagram is self-serving.
I've got a really interesting point on that, because this is just on my wall, and I don't know where I've actually got it from. But when I read this, it really, and it could be classed as, so the quote is, beautiful things don't ask for attention. It could be beautiful acts don't ask for attention. So, the whole YouTube vibe of like feeding the homeless and having videos of it, or giving them money, all these things, the majority of them you can tell are total bullshit anyway. But the people that truly do that, they don't record that shit all over the internet and show the videos of them. Hey, make sure you film this. I'm going to give this guy some money. That's, because you're doing this act purely out of doing this act of giving, not because you need to receive and get some attention from people. And that's what these channels and everything is. So there's so many of them. That's what it's all about, isn't it? And I love that. Beautiful things don't ask for attention. They just are.
That's awesome, mate.
And they'll receive it. And I don't know where it came from. If anyone knows, let me know. Just found it.
Yeah, look, people feel as though they have to promote themselves, and it's just a different time in terms of throwing it out there. I look at some of the content sometimes and I think you're way better than this. You are way better than this. I know a lot of people that put content out relentlessly, and I know them as people, and I go, you don't need to do this shit. You don't need to do this shit. Your value, I see, it's the old Avatar. I see you. When you truly actually appreciate your own value and what you had to offer, apart from all this image bullshit that's thrown upon us, be real. That's what the D.M.C Daily is all about, mate. No makeup, no filters, just great hair. Just great hair. Yeah, that was the feedback that Cody is. I say, new fade, bro.
Fresh fade, baby. Fresh fade.
First thing, the first thing that goes in. But I think, we are just, it's just rammed down our throats relentlessly. They're trying to enforce, saying, hey, you want to feel better? Buy this. You want to be part of the cool kids? Go here. Yeah. And we're like, fuck, you know what? I'm not cool. I don't have that. And the anxiety that it creates, and all you do is you internalize it, and it's me. And that's what they want you to think. It's you. You can fix it. But let's look wider to the community. The other thing, our sense of community has changed, because this is community now, right? This is, and obviously COVID has meant community is a way different thing too. But home, historically, home used to be a village. Home used to be a town where people would walk together, communicate, shop in markets, know each other. You'd know everybody's name. The kids would play together. And now home is 4 walls on a half-acre section, 2 meters apart. And do you know who your neighbors are? A lot of people don't. A lot of people don't. Home has changed.
Yeah.
We are confined. We are animals. And as such, any animal that is confined, any animal that is, let's say, imprisoned of sorts, will struggle. You watch the behavior in zoos. Again, more of it is in the book, and it just, we talk about the resonation that came back to me in droves. You know, you talk about the captivity, the animals, how the behavior changes. I guess zoos are getting better at it, right? And it's a necessity for some animals. But we are animals. Accept it.
Yeah.
For millions of years, we walked around naked / half naked. We crawled around. We fought off monsters with sticks. We fucking made it. We made it. So we are succeeding in many ways. But again, we're listening to the wrong things. We forget about our own ability to survive, to be strong, to be glorious, to celebrate all of these wonderful things. And then we're told, bombarded, hey, buy this, wear those, do this. Mate. It's you. It's you. It's not you. It's them. They can get fucked for a start. Okay? They can get fucked. What's the difference between wearing a black t-shirt with a swoosh on it? It gives a shit. You know what? They're all made in the same flipping factory anyway.
Yeah, exactly right. Hey, another good one is that whole you were talking about the whole isolation thing, but you get better at what you do more of, obviously, right? So when the whole isolation thing, especially the COVID thing, comes in and everyone starts packing into their four walls, you get more used to that. And again, Lost Connection talks about the amount of connections you have with people throughout a day or time, right? So the more isolated we are, well, number one, you get more used to being isolated. You love you don't love it, but you just get so comfortable being alone. Whereas the more you go out into the world and actually look up from your phone and say hello to people and talk to the shopkeeper and say, have a yarn about your groceries because you're going to have tomatoes on toast with salt and pepper for breakfast this morning, which is my conversation yesterday. And she's like, oh, that's the best breakfast right there. And I said, you know it, lady. But that's the kind of things that you start avoiding that. You go to the self-checkouts all the time because you don't want to have connections or conversations. You have headphones in and music or something so you don't have to talk to people. So it's really scary how fast you can shut yourself into your own little world and start, getting into that sort of the dark behaviors versus opening it up and being out there in the community, in your community, saying hello to your neighbors, waving and saying, what's up? How's your day?
Yeah, searching for eye contact is a hard one, eh? You do see it when you come up against people who are out there. There's a difference to people who have accessibility to people and crowds and community to those that don't.
Yeah.
And sometimes that isolation is forced upon us. And if you're feeling that way, if you're feeling isolated at times and your mood isn't good, you can change it. And I know that Cody and I are fitness centric, right? We go into the gyms, but I was thinking about it. The sense of community in those places is one thing that I love.
Yep.
Fronting up on, going in on a Wednesday night, and I know there's 60 people in one time slot and 60 people, 120 people over a period of 2 hours that I get to spend my time with, who are like-minded individuals for the most part, who are going through life struggles, to different scales, who are dealing with different things, who are there for different reasons. But it's a community nonetheless. We are a part of something, and that's one important thing to reinforce. So that's a lot of the reason why you walk out of those places feeling good as well. You are a part of something bigger. And it's like this, bro.
Yeah.
The quality that this has added, these conversations have added to my life, and the opportunities and connections that has brought to me from a introverted, selfish kind of perspective has been incredible. And it's still only early days. Only 9 episodes and 9 weeks deep, coming into double digits, flying towards is there a big we talk about that big, hairy, audacious goal. The big, hairy, audacious goal is the next podcast, right? And then the big, hairy, audacious goal after that is the next podcast. Interim is those small goals we're going to kick as the D.M.C daily. But the quality that has given me in being able to just talk, and peeps know me loves a conversation, but the conversations too are changing. And you know how you have those little, how you going? Oh yeah, good mate. Those types of things. I kind of, they don't. I just want to grab people now. I want to go, oh, come here, come here for a second, and just spend time with them in terms of the connection, and see if you can do that too, peeps. We challenge you. If you do have the opportunity to sit down and chat, and you are asking, how are you, mean it, and make sure that you get the answer. Don't just skid by, you know, that awkward, how are you? Goes down. Make sure that you look for the answer. Hey, how are you? And they don't answer, how are you? Repeat. Grab shoulders, shake relentlessly. How? Don't do that.
Not with these bloody biceps, mate.
No, mate.
Hey, bro, I want to go back to the whole community thing you talked about, because there's a good study done, and you may have heard of it. It was called the blue zones, right? And so there are areas of the world where the people live the longest, and they did a big study on like why are these people living on average longer than anyone else in the world. And lots of aspects, of course, and it came down, some of it was about their physical activity and their meals and whatnot. But some of the big ones that I really took were the ones of family and belonging, right? Like community. They each belong to something bigger than themselves. And so I always say it's my gym, but it could be your church, it could be another organization, it could be anything, but that's where you have your sense of community and belonging to something. People, like-minded people with conversations. The other one that I found really powerful is actually that whole family time, which is harder these days in terms of the extended families, but where they'd have meals, have meals together. Remember the old sit-down meals with all families, having glasses of wine. Like the people that live the longest on the planet drink alcohol with their meals. They have a glass of wine or a glass of sherry in Italy somewhere, eating fresh produce, but they're together having conversations and they're talking and they're cheering and they're whatever. But that's the sort of things that as we move away to our families and myself living overseas for so long, you do jump into new families, but how cool is that? Like having that ability to have those sit down at your table and have conversations and talk about it, invite your friends over, and and that's what we're really lucky. And like you said, that's one of my things about the gyms as well. You can go to a Globo gym, we call it, where you just put your headphones in and you work out. You don't speak to a single soul. Or you go to a different style gym where you're in a group setting and you have yarns to people and you talk and you go for coffee afterwards. And you have social parts of that. And that's essentially your church for some of us. That's like my church.
I crave it. I crave that stuff. I love the old high five, the connecting with people. Yeah. Again, we've talked about it before, just that I always stand at the door at the end of the class, make sure I just express gratitude and thank people for their energy and their effort and a little bit of, commend them. And it's that transaction, that little tick, clip the ticket on the way out, just to say thank you, just to know that we are connected in the experience. Yeah. And the only thing I ask for is a smile on the way out, which is still hard for a couple of people.
But it's cool because it's that whole I see you, like you said, that whole I see you, so yeah, my ones, I like to connect with every single person as well as they walk in the room. It's whether they're in my class or not, I don't care. If you're with someone else, if you're someone's PT client, I'm saying hello to you. You're not going to escape me. That's just what I do. Because one day I'll assume, which you should never do, that you are a PT client, but maybe you're in my class and I've just ignored you because I think I've assumed you were someone else. So what's the safest way to handle that? Don't let anyone slide by the gaps. So there's fist pumps, there's good morning. That's the morning agreement. Now we agree, you're in my team, we work together, we work hard, we're going to get through this together. Boom, agreement done. Bang.
Mate, we are massive fans of teamwork. And again, if I circle around, the dinner thing is interesting because we're doing that at home now. And part of that was my time in Europe and we were going through COVID, how I remember being in Italy, in Como, in a little village at an Airbnb, beautiful place. You would open up the shutters and there would be a little courtyard. And it was noisy at times, guys riding little mopeds and motorbikes through. But all you could hear in the evening was the families together, chatting, talking, laughing, the conversations between generations, three generations. Probably minimum, actually. And that's why my heart ached when I knew that they were going through. I could understand it, especially over COVID times. But my effort to replicate that experience, because I knew we had a small table that's kind of sat in the corner that hardly ever got used. So I just said, mate, I'm going to put a table here that no one can walk around that can hold a village. So we did that. And the fact that we've had lunches, we've had dinners, and the difference it makes when people are invited around the table and the phones are down and we're just talking, connecting, laughing, even playing card games over the table. Such old school fun, team. Who knew that they still exist? So make the time, involve yourself in the community, get out, put yourself in those environments. We talk about it all the time. We're going to keep reinforcing this idea. Shift the environment. If you are uncomfortable or isolated or feeling down, check yourself, go through that list and say, what are the contributing factors potentially for me feeling this way? Can I make a change? The answer is yes, you can. Why? Because we've told you, because you're brave, because you're powerful. And it's all about the willpower. You can do anything that you put your mind to. And all we're asking you to do is check yourself and just take a little shift. It's just a little shift. And you'll be amazed at the difference it makes. It may take a little time, right? But when you're in those environments, introduce yourself, make those connections immediately. Don't stand there. Look for those people that will come up, gravitate towards them, but also expand in terms of, hi, I'm Adam. How are you? Good to see you. I'm Adam. How are you? Nice to see you. Thanks very much. And over time, the conversations will get a little deeper, but make sure you introduce yourself and stand proud because you made a decision to put yourself there, maximize the time you have, and don't take for granted the impact that you have by being there too, eh?
That's right.
We talk about that because I used to laugh about it. If you say you do spin, or people think they have these images of those crazy classes and people think you're nuts, mate. You're getting up at 5 o'clock in the morning to do that. What a nutter. But there are people in your lives, by doing whatever you do, whether it's tramping or riding a bike with your kids, that are looking at that thinking, shit, that's awesome. I need to do a lot of that. So you are actually a mentor in your own community, in your bubble of sorts. So don't forget the impact, the positive impact that you can have by just doing shit that makes you feel great. So many more benefits, but surround yourself with like-minded individuals. Push yourself forward, back yourself in those situations. And the reinforcement, the light bulb moment, is you're not broken, you're not busted, you're human. It is normal to feel this way. The pressures of society are trying to gear you up to make you feel inadequate, right? To make you consume the bullshit that is thrown at us relentlessly so they can fill their pockets. But what we're saying is grab that control back. We're going to fill our hearts and minds, and we're going to band together, and we're going to say, what's my favorite saying? Get fucked. We're going to do something about it. Why? Because we care. Why? Because we do have a voice. Why? Because that voice is important. And don't think for a second that it's not.
Love it, bro. Take control, Control. Take control.
I've completely destroyed a pen in that.
Change your environment, change your results. That's one of the other goodies.
Change your environment. Yeah, exactly, mate. We're gonna. We are gonna deep dive on a whole range of stuff. And this is really about empowerment. So the logo in the background represents a whole lot of stuff, right? It's about that empowerment. It's about that those light bulb moments that we have. It's about the fracture of old ideas. It's about the building of new ideas. And sometimes we do have to break and change the light bulb to change the way that we think, or we are conditioned to think. Go back to that word, accountability. Who's responsible? We know that we are, and we're just saying we back you in making the decisions, the positive decisions that you need to in your life. We can start to throw up links to organizations that can help. But it's got to start with you. It's got to start with you. It's got to start with us. And this is part of it. It's powerful stuff, and it's fucking scary. It's, it is, it's scary to actually, it's ego, right? It's conditioned where our egos are conditioned, and they are important because essentially they were designed. We've got to have this sense of self because it's about preservation and protection. But the egos have scaled to such a point with so much miscellaneous shit that's not important, that have altered the ego and the perception of what ego is. Ego is important. You've got to have pride in who you are. You've got to know what you're about. You've got to be confident in certain situations. But you can't build your ego based on shit, based on stuff. You can't say, I need to pump myself up a bit. I'm going to go buy something new. That will never, ever fix anything. Because, again, if we reinforce those ideas, as soon as you buy something new will come out, and you'll never get there. You will never get there. Helping other people is way more satisfying, way more gratifying. Be of service, way more beneficial. So that's what we're saying. Checking in with you, giving you the ability and confidence to check in with those that you love, creating your community, our community, and being way stronger together, because this is just more than a podcast. This is a movement, and we don't take it lightly. We love a joke, and there'll be lighthearted moments. There'll also be really, really deep moments. These are the things that we need to condition ourselves to listen to. Like Cody and I said, hey, we think about, hey, we need this motivation, and I'm a lighthearted guy. I want to listen to funny people, and that's great at times, but we need to get that balance right.
Exactly. Get your mind right in that situation.
We need to look in that mirror. Yeah, we need to look in that mirror and look hard and realize you're not the sum total of all the BS, all the parts. You're not all the clothes. Get rid of those. Have a decent look at yourself and say, mate, this is me. Fuck, how good is it to be alive? I'm going to go rip shit up. Why? Because I can, and I will. And I'll do everything in my power to be the best version of myself. Flex.
Let's go. Well, bro, with that being said, mate, I reckon.
Yes.
Well, the first thing's up. We've got episode 10 coming up next week. Yes. And we've got a few ideas coming through, and obviously from ourselves, and you've proposed some awesome things to do. So listeners, next week, get ready. We are doing it next week, right? We're going to guest it up next week, brother?
That is...
Try it.
We're going to try. There's a lot of things that it'll be the first experience for us. There's a lot of things that we have to overcome to be able to do that.
Especially not in the same room at the same time. So that's going to be the challenge, I think.
Yeah, we are active in our pursuit of, or starting to think deep and long about getting people here, and part of that is actually introducing ourselves and our purpose. People that we know to start with, right? Because they know us. But they may not know how deep the water is in terms of people that communicate with us may not know this side of us, bro, that this deep well. And so to expose them to that, to realize that it's not like two guys taking the piss out of life. This is serious shit. This is serious shit for us. We'll take piss at times, of course, but this is serious shit for us. So we are going to attempt to bring people in because we need that perspective. We want to hear what other people think, how they navigate or negotiate the ducks and dives, the light and dark, how they got to where they got, and things that will definitely help us all move forward on the path to enlightenment and empowerment. So yeah, we'll be working towards some super special stuff, even looking at like I say, the live scenario untethered, so we can get feedback up on the screen, answer questions on the fly. We've already had a couple of people who said, yep, if you do that, we are in.
So there's a couple of options there we're working on.
4 of us. Yeah, and give us, throw some ideas, because again, that's what we're about. You're part of this journey too. For us, we're appreciative of the support that we get, and that people are, backing us as we are backing people, and that shows us that's our sense of community. People are digging what we are doing, and our intention is just to keep pushing. Is it going to be sticky at times? Yeah, it will be, but that's important. Like I say, if you know people who will benefit from it, please share, like, subscribe. They're increasing daily. One thing we did notice, that I think half the viewers are subscribed, right? So they're the half,
YouTube,
which is actually not a bad statistic compared to other pages. It's just a flick on, flick off. But what we do want to make is those meaningful connections. So if you haven't subscribed, just push the button. That would be an awful lot to us. We're getting there, like I say, over 1,000 views on YouTube, which is stunning.
Yeah, mate. Yeah.
And we do, man. We appreciate. We talk about it all the time. We seriously appreciate it, and our commitment is just to get better and better and dive deeper. And also, we're going to get out there and have some fun too.
Absolutely,
That's
mate.
what it's all about.
Got to play the game, brother. Well, team, thank you all for tuning in. I've reached my what do we got here? We're going to get the day started, mate. This is our morning, so we are about to crank into it. So we better do it, eh?
You can see the sun reflecting. I'm already 2 coffees deep.
Yeah, mate. So get that shit.
My cup is full with motivation. I've already got the day started, mate. So we are in.
Let's go. All right, everybody. Thank you all for tuning in to the D.M.C Podcast. Like, subscribe, share to your buddies, and we'll see you all next time.
Peace and love.
See you later, team. Over and out.
See ya.